Hello and welcome back to the Wisdom of Odin, but today we are not talking about Odin, we are talking about Thor, or Donar since I am here in Germany. So on the other side of this hill, I'll show you some footage, there is actually a storm rolling in, so I'm on the less windy side of the hill, but over there, trust me, it is getting bombarded with wind. So who knows, maybe I'll get rained on and we'll hear some thunder while I record, and that would just be very fitting. But also I prefer to stay dry most of the time because it is a long walk back home. Now the reason I want to actually talk today is because we've had a recent Thor experience within the community that I think really describes who he is or who he is as a deity, so I feel like this would be a really good story to share with you. Now you may have also noticed that I titled this video Thor, Mud, and Thunder, which I think is really funny because it, obviously plays to the fact that blood and thunder or love and thunder or whatever it is coming out here soon, because that is another reason I think it's important to talk about Thor every now and then. It's just because once again we have another Marvel movie coming out about Thor, which is just going to further increase the image in people's minds that when you say you worship Thor, that you are worshiping a Marvel character. And this is something I've heard before, that people get chastised when they say they're a follower of the Norse gods. They're like, oh, I follow Thor. And they're like, oh, so you worship a comic book character. And it's like, oh. So, and the problem is that Thor is a deity that we should probably venerate and honor more because he's one of the few deities we actually have a lot of information about. And we actually do know that there was historical veneration of Thor, at least at Uppsala, from the account of Adam of Bremen, who accounted that Odin, Donar, and Thor, and then Frey or Freyr were the deities that were honored at Uppsala at the highest. Then, of course, the majority of us following this faith today have a Mjolnir or wear something similar to a Mjolnir, and that's because we have found so many in burial sites, and it's pretty obvious that this is the hammer of Thor. And so Thor is very much one of the centerpieces of this faith, and yet who Thor is very much controlled in most people's minds by Marvel and their depiction of him, which is, as I discussed in a video going all through the differences, he is very different in most categories. So that's what I think makes this story even more important, is that this story, again, I feel like it is very much a Thor experience that I think, again, really describes who he is. And so this happened recently at the Ohio Spring Gathering, Ostara Gathering, whatever you want to call it, and it was on our final day. So on Monday, we woke up to a thunderstorm, which I thought was pretty cool. It's always cool to have Thor show up at an event, especially like this. The last time this happened was way back at the first Midsummer Gathering, where we were all sitting on the front yard, not too different than this, watching the storm roll in, and then every now and then we would get a wave of thunder and lightning, and we would be out drumming and singing to Thor and pouring out drinks for him, and it was a very wonderful experience. But again, this is another experience where, yes, thunder was involved, but it wasn't necessarily just the thunder that was the connection. It was what happened afterwards that I think really embodied who Thor was. Okay, so I'll just tell the story completely now. Well, wait, no, one more thing. So before this, we had our ritual, which was basically a play very similar to Locusena or a Feast of the Gods, was kind of the prose to this, the background of this ritual, where we had multiple gods come into this feast, and then every time a god would come up, or we would come up and say, Hail Ullr, Hail Thor, Hail Frigg, and all this, then people would come and give offerings, and that was kind of the stage of it. It was supposed to be lighthearted and fun, which was even more so true when we had Reagan in our community, who was the Thor venerator, come forward at the very end of the ceremony and the very end of the play, so to speak, and saying that Thor always arrives late, which is actually a callback to Locusena as well, because he was the last to come to the party and kick Loki out. And so,
is the Thunderer not always the last to arrive to these dinner parties? Hammer wielder, protector of Midgard. I can't help but think that he smiles down upon us when he sees us gather, and he sees the people of Midgard together, worshiping the gods. It's a powerful feeling, an amazing one, and I know that he and the other gods are proud of us and happy with us. I would like to invoke Thor and present him with an offering. If anyone else has an offering for Thor, please do it now.
It was, again, so we had Thor coming in at the end of this story, at the end of this ritual, and then sure enough, on the last day, on Monday morning, the very end of the gathering, Thor shows up. And so I just think that's pretty cool. And yeah, the storm, you can see sun behind me right now, but I am looking at very dark storm clouds. So we awoke to Thor arriving late to the party. Thunder was all around us. It was raining, it was downpouring. And the main problem here at this gathering space is that we were at the base of a hill. So basically our driveway came in, went down gravel and turned into grass and mud. And then all of our cars were down here, and that's the only way out. And there was no cell phone reception either. And then like the hall thing was like over here. And so all of our cars were down here, and it was downpouring rain as it had been kind of doing before then. So the ground was very, very muddy, and there was very little gravel. And so all of our cars were essentially stuck in the mud, and the trucks were actually the ones that get stuck first. Luckily, we had someone that had a Jeep with a winch, and so we're using that to get people out. Then we had everyone pushing together. It was really a team effort because the people that were helping to push the cars and everything to get out of the mud were really focused on that, while everyone else was inside packing everything up so we could leave, because we don't usually plan for breakfast on those last days. We usually go to some place like Cracker Barrel and have breakfast there. And so everyone was really working together on all ends. People were either packing or pushing cars out of the mud, getting covered in mud in the process, and then we were lining the cars up on the ridge and then coming back down and helping everyone else. So it was very much a team building experience, a community building experience. Now the thunder and rain did stop before we started doing this. I would say we started trying to push the cars out around 8 and it stopped about 7:50. But the reason it stopped, and the reason I will always say it stopped, is we saw this coming. We were like, okay, this is going to be bad. Like if we actually, have this, downpouring rain, we're not going to get out of here if it's actively downpouring. And so me and a few other people got together. We were like, well, actually it was Caleb came forward and was like, we need to give an offering to Thor. And we were like, yep, we definitely do. And so we all grabbed some mead. We ran out to our ritual tree that we had there that we've been performing rituals at. And we basically called out to Thor and said, Thor, let us get home safe. It's great that you arrived. It was great that you arrived, but at the same time, we want to get home safe. So please, Thor, leave us alone, or please hold off on the thunderstorms for now. As again, this thunderstorm is getting steadily closer to me. And so we all raised our drinks in the air, and I'm so upset. I'm so upset I didn't get this on video, because then we all raised our drinks in the air and said, Thor, this is to you. Thank you for arriving to this party. Hail you, Thunderer. Hail you, Donar, hail you, Thor. And then we poured out our drinks around the ritual tree. And then I kid you not, you won't, some people won't believe me because oh, of course. But the moment we poured out those drinks, it was like 1 second later, the loudest crash of thunder we had heard all day. Just, it was like an explosion went off in the sky. And again, I kid you not, like 10 seconds later, the last cloud parted away and we were given like clear skies. It was a little cloudy here and there, but the dark clouds just dissipated. And we were like, holy shit. It was crazy. And then sure enough, it didn't rain at all. It stopped raining until we actually had left the property and it finally started raining again. So it gave us just enough time to get out of there. So, you might say this is coincidence. Someone might say, oh, well, you just got lucky there. But at the same time, it's too coincidental that, you give an offering to Thor during a thunderstorm saying, hey, we need peace. We need to be able to get out of here. Thank you for showing up. Here's an offering. And then all of a sudden everything clears up so we can get out. And then the thing that truly to me was the Thor experience here was the fact that we then had to work together to get everyone out. The working together part, I think, is an aspect of Thor that gets slept on. And that's something that I've really connected with over the last few years, is the fact of fellowship, of bringing people together, of the bonds between friends, the bonds between, basically people that are your family, and what you would do to protect them and help them out. And that's something that to me has just been throughout our community of the Fellowship of Northern Traditions, is this idea of just helping each other out, working together. It's something that is so natural. No matter how many people are new or old that come to these events, we're all like, we want to help out. And especially when it comes to getting our cars out of the mud, no one just took off. No one, we got them up the hill and then they would just drive off into the sunset. No, everyone came back down and helped everyone out, unless like they had something. I think a couple of people were like, I have to get to work. And so we got them out of there first. But other than that, everyone stayed and helped. And then, a few of us stayed behind, had a nice circle. We all hugged each other and, and just reveled in the moment and, the excitement. And so to me, this is Thor, thunder, teamwork, fellowship, coming together, and him arriving late, a little bit of humor there was a little bit of humor. This is, to me, is Thor, mud and thunder, not this Love and Thunder that's going to come out. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the other two Thor movies, and let me tell you, I don't think they're going to do Thor very good justice in this, and it's not going to build a good image. And again, it's just going to further create this idea and stereotype of a Norse pagan worshiping the Marvel character because the Norse god came first. So I hope you enjoyed this little video and this little story I told you as I sit here and hopefully get pelted by rain here soon to say hello to Thor as well. But truly, I believe that we should be honoring and venerating Thor more. And, you know, a lot of people come to this faith and I think they're really attracted to Odin as a god and a deity, but really Thor and Freya are the deities I think that most people should go for, even Freya or Frigg. These are the deities that we're going to have deeper and more meaningful connections with, and honestly, probably a more happy relationship with in the end. So definitely go out there, venerate Thor. You know, you can do it not during a thunderstorm, but it also is one of the best times to talk to him, is go out, have a drink with him, pour out some drink for him as well, and hail the Thunderer. So thank you all so very much for joining me for this video, and until the hall, hail Thor and Skull.